Happy Thursday!
We don't get to say that very often.
I know. This is the first time that we have done this episode. Well, at least each other. I don't know if they've done it in the past.
Yeah.
It's never. This is the first inaugural.
There have been Thursday episodes, bonus episodes, but never a two-part episode.
Never a two-part episode.
Hey.
This is it. We're still answering your questions today. So stay tuned.
Welcome to another episode of Focus on This, the most productive podcast on the internet, so you can banish distractions, get the right stuff done, and finally start loving Thursdays. I'm Marissa here with Ken, and we're here to answer your questions in part 2 of our Q&A about goals.
Let's jump right into it.
We've got one from Ashley here. I like this one. It says, what to do when you're having trouble thinking of inspiring goals, i.e. you're only coming up with boring, lame ones that don't make you excited to work on them.
Well, gosh, Ashley, nobody wants a boring, lame goal. Please don't set boring, lame goals. That is not part of the Smarter framework that we teach. And, one of the critical components of a Smarter goal is exciting. It has got to feel exciting to you. And we know this from the research. If a goal is not personally exciting, you're not going to have the motivation to A, start it, or B, accomplish it. You're not going to have that that drive to actually finish over the finish line if it's not exciting. So do not set a boring, lame goal. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, and if I'm hearing this correctly, it sounds like she's trying to set goals and you're still finding that you're just I'm kind of bored, or they're kind of lame. I would say that there might be some limiting beliefs that you got going on there.
Yeah.
If I'm interpreting the question correctly, that are hindering you from that, where you might say there might be some fear of failure that you're worried about, or you're just risk adverse. So those are some of the things that I think you'd have to address first before you start going into the goals, so that you can be oh, you know what? I do have an opportunity. And I'll say to you that you have this immense potential to actually achieve some greater things than you think you can.
Yep.
So that's where you want to be all right, I'm going to try it and I'm going to shoot for the stars. And I don't know if I'll hit it, but you know what?
Yeah. And this is where I think working with a coach can be really helpful. If you are really struggling with this and you find that you do have a lot of underlying fear that's preventing you to feel safe to dream, then work with a coach. We have a whole directory of certified pros that you are certified in our framework. And so those are great people to reach out to. But somebody like that, if you don't have that financial means or something, get a trusted friend or a spouse who knows you and kind of start asking yourself those questions of if I could create, if this year was absolutely my picture perfect year, what would it look like? And don't put any bounds on it. Just let yourself dream, let your imagination go wild. And I would encourage you to write this down, do a journaling exercise where you ask yourself that question and don't filter. This is what is so hard is we start filtering because your brain goes, well, you can't do that. No, you can't. You don't have the financial means to do that. You're never going to lose that weight. You're never going to have that relationship with your spouse. Work's too crazy. The kids are too demanding. I can't do this. And don't have any, try to get all of those reasons why you can't do it out of your mind and just get to the dreaming part. And what you're not really committing to that picture. That picture is probably somewhat unrealistic and lofty and all of that. What you're trying to figure out are those themes that are happening.
Yeah.
So what are the things that are driving you that get you excited? Maybe it's a trip, and maybe you can't take that huge, crazy, whatever trip because you just don't have the ability to right now. You've got small children or, financial restrictions, or you can't take that much time off from work. But what can you do that resembles that still gives you that sense of fulfillment that you're looking for in that?
Yeah. The big thing that I heard you say is that it's unlocking, when you go through this exercise you just talked about, it's unlocking the exciting desires that they might have.
Right.
And that's the thing that I would want this person who asked the question to know is that all of us have desires. All of us have dreams. Sometimes they're just stuck for some reason. And you got to go through a little bit of process.
And usually it's because of fear is the primary reason. And so Ashley, I would just encourage you, try to get under that fear, whether it's through a coach or just journaling exercise with a friend, and just start talking out what are some things that you've been interested in or that excite you or that you've always said, well, one day I would love to have this or do that or whatever, and think through, are there small steps that I could take this year to get to that big thing. Because sometimes it's like you want that big thing, but you know I can't do it this year. And so you just write it off, and then you end up doing basically nothing.
Yeah.
Boring, lame things, which we don't want.
Good question.
This is from Mark. Mark asks, how to adapt a planner for someone on 12-hour shifts with no pattern to their work days, working days, nights, weekends, holidays, etc. in healthcare.
Wow. First of all, thank you for your service, because that's a lot.
Before I will say that somebody else in the community has already provided some thoughts.
Okay.
So that's for just anyone out there who goes like, what's the value of the community? This was posted 2 hours ago. There's already something there. So
that's awesome.
I have some ideas already.
Yeah, go for it, Ken.
Well, if you're in healthcare, I know that like your shifts are never the same, right? So it's so hard. But I do, if I remember correctly, you do get it a couple weeks in advance, right? So you always, once you do get it, you have to sit down and almost do like an ideal week.
Oh, that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
And like set it like, okay, I have these 3 weeks. I have it set up. What should that look like? So you're almost not planning for just a week. You're planning for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, however long you have. The more you can plan ahead on those things, the better. And this is where I think the ideal week exercise that we have would be super beneficial for you to optimize your life. Now,
and we do, I will say too, we have a printable version. So if you wanted to almost create like an ideal week every week, or like normally I would not recommend doing this, but for in this case, that could be helpful if your schedule is consistently changing. You could almost create like, here's my ideal week for the week ahead. You could even do this in your weekly preview as well.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say, if you're doing 12-hour shifts, obviously your morning routines, your shutdown routines will look a little different. I would also, like just the season of life you're in, consolidate them a little bit, where it's like, hey, instead of your morning routine being an hour, can you do it in 30 minutes?
Yep.
Right. Just so you can find yourself being able to work a little bit better.
I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but trying to figure out what are those non-negotiables. And it's likely that the days where you're on shift versus the days where you're not are going to look really different. And your, non-negotiables are going to be really helpful for those days where you're working long hours. And so that could be, something as small as every hour, that you're on shift, you take 5 minutes to go in the bathroom and do a short breathing exercise. I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking,
use an example.
Just something to help you get through that experience, or that your non-negotiable is, depending on when you're working, every day that you are on shift, you come home and do 20 minutes of stretching or something, because you've been on your feet all day and you need to kind of stretch your body out. So, again, have some grace. It's not going to look perfect. It's not going to look the exact same every single day, most likely. But you still can absolutely implement the planner. You're just using it in somewhat of a different way.
Yeah. The last practical tip that I would have is that your body now well enough that whenever you have to reset, like how long it takes you to reset from those 12-hour shifts, what type of rest you need.
That's
so
good.
You have to be extremely intentional about your rest and not just like binging on something and not truly rejuvenating.
Yeah.
So take that time to rejuvenate and then do a lot of time blocking to actually get stuff done, right? Because you now only have maybe 2 days where you're trying to knock everything out, whereas everybody else would have done it, spaced it out throughout the week. Yeah, so just be mindful of that. You just got to be a little bit more intentional. And again, thank you for your service.
Yes.
Arden and Lori actually wanted some similar things, and it's not even a question necessarily. They said, highlight different ways successful people have used full focus planners so that we can draw inspiration from their ideas. And all I'm going to say is that we know and we hear that, correct? So that is a desire we have on this show, is also to really connect achievement to the system in the new year. Is that correct? So Arden, Lori, yes, and it's going to happen.
Yes.
So there you go. If you've got a goal you've achieved, let us know.
Yeah. That is really something that we want to do, is have people on the show who are going after big goals and getting outside of their comfort zone. And, we want to hear from you too. Like, we're doing our own thing, but we also want to hear from you guys, because you teach us a lot.
So, and this is something I'm sure neither of you have any experience with. So just imagine this for yourself.
This is a complete hypothetical.
Complete hypothetical. It's from Mindy. Mindy says, when you set a new goal and then you realize it has way more steps than you could have imagined, how do you rein that in? We are currently having this with a product launch. Some of it we don't know until we know. We do our bird's eye view strategy plan. Is it that we need to be more intentional of this planning phase?
No.
So you've never had an experience
This is
where
No.
this has never happened to us ever.
So just
in our entire lives.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, for every product we've ever launched. Yeah, honestly, what is her name?
Mindy.
Mindy. Oh, I have a sister named Mindy. Maybe it's my sister. Thank you, Mindy. And yes, we feel your pain on this. And frankly, I don't think there's anything you can do in terms of like, you can't foresee the future. You can't see every single thing it's going to take to pull off a product launch. So first of all, you got to do your best on the front end to try to think through all the things that it's going to take to accomplish that goal, to get that product out into the world. And the truth is, this is part of the journey of achieving a goal is things come up. You're going to have all kinds of things that are roadblocks or curveballs that you didn't expect that come your way in the process. And I think this is where our system of the Full Focus Planner is really so helpful, because we give you those signposts, so to speak, along the way to help you go, okay, I got to do my weekly preview and what's changed and what can I do differently in the week ahead and what do I know it's coming? And you kind of recalibrate every single week. You recalibrate. And so this happens though, just to make you feel normal all the time here.
Yeah.
Like this is so common for us.
Yeah. I think a couple of things that I would add specifically to Minnie and anyone who's doing a product launch that's been helpful. Number one, find a mentor, find a coach, find someone who might be who have been in your shoes, that have launched a product launch, that might be able to give you steps like, oh, FY, don't forget about this or that, right? We've done enough product launches that we kind of know most of the things, but there's still stuff that comes up that we're like, oh, we didn't think about that. The second one, and I'm a big fan of this whenever doing product launches, is doing beta launches.
Yeah.
Super, super helpful because it fleshes out truly how much of the product do you need, what do you need to work out, all the little kinks. And the first version has to be a little bit embarrassing, right? Because your tribe is going to be cool with it and you're just going to roll with it. But that beta launch gives you so much information about what are the other steps that need to be taken.
It's like a dress rehearsal.
Exactly.
You know, it's like you get to go through the process without the stakes being so high. And so you're going to work all those kinks out. You know, if like your site can't handle, I don't know, certain amount of traffic, or you know, you didn't set up a product in the right way and now it's not functioning in the way that you need to, or that feature that you put in your product like actually doesn't work, or whatever it is, like it gives you an opportunity, a safe space to work through all of those kinks. And this is usually, you try to find like some of your best people who are going to be the most forgiving and who are the most excited too, who are like, let's be a part of this. And they want to help you just as much as you want to help them. Yeah.
So make sure you add, if you do decide to do a beta launch, make sure you add that a part of your planning process and your finances too. Because, you might be like, oh, by March, we're going to make $1 million. And you may need to delay that or figure it out. Just include the beta in a part of that.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm so happy you guys were able to imagine that.
We
certainly can't really relate, but.
Okay, this is a question.
I do things perfectly, so.
There's a question from John, and Amy says, I have wondered this too. And this is interesting. So it says, what are some goals that don't involve saving more money? For instance, my goal is to have a beach house, but in reality, that simply means save more money or create more income for that goal. What are some goals people have that don't involve saving or creating more cash flow that are exciting and new? Stated another way, what are some non-material goals people put in?
So just in general, not related to finance?
Yeah.
First of all, habit goals are a really good non-material goal. So something that you might want to install into your daily life or into your weekly rhythm. This could be anything from exercise, meditation, prayer, journaling, taking your supplements, eating healthy, waking up at a certain time, drinking a certain amount of water, anything like that, which is not material, really. Things that are not material. You could do a reading goal. So you want to read certain amount of books, or read, like you could make that a habit goal if you want to read every single day. I would say relationship goals.
So I would say look at the 9 life domains.
Yeah.
So look at the 9 life domains and decide, okay, out of these domains, which one are immaterial, for example, or non-materialistic, and just say, hey, how do I want to grow with it? So like relationship, right? Like if you're married, saying like, how do you want to enrich your family, or how do you want to, or sorry, your relationship with your spouse, right? Or if your family, like, how do you want to grow or train your kids, right? There's a lot of those things that can be really healthy goals.
Yes.
That you want to do, right? Or if you're just trying to find a spouse, right? Like that's a goal.
Yeah,
right?
Hobby goals are good too. Like
Hobby goals, yeah.
you know, just to develop a new skill or hobby. Like you know, I love to hike, and so it could be something like I want to go hiking every weekend, you know, for a certain amount of time, or you know, which doesn't cost me any money outside of gas to get there. You know what I mean? So that's immaterial as well. I was going to say that we have our Your Best Year Ever Live event coming up in January 5th, and you and I are hosting that, which I'm really excited about. And in that event, it's a full day event, it's virtual, but we have a ton of examples of goals that we give you in that process, and it'll like totally ignite your whole thought process about goal setting and get you dreaming and thinking about what you want for your life. And so if you're not planning to join us, I want to encourage you to. You get a free ticket to that when you buy Full Focus Goal Setting, and it is like so worth it. So definitely come to that event.
Love it.
People are asking questions during this record right now, so they're getting in right
under
at
the wire.
Second.
We should have just opened a Zoom room and said, come in and talk to us.
Yeah.
We should totally do that. That would be super fun.
Heather says, she says it might not be the right place for this question, but it's the one she has. So,
okay.
Preface. How do you set company goals that trickle down to departments, managers, individuals?
Ooh, this is a good question. And I feel like
is this the right place for it, number one?
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. We're going to do a very quick version of this. I don't want to spend a ton of time because this probably isn't relevant to everybody who's listening. But I do think it's an important question that people do have. And I would say if you want to know more about goal setting as a company, we have a product called Strategic Design Workshop, where we literally walk you through the entire process of strategic planning with your team. And I would recommend getting that because that's a whole in-depth, like that's really going to take you through the process of how to do this. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. So essentially what we do here at Full Focus is we create 4 annual initiatives as a company. These are different than goals. These are initiatives. These are kind of like the rally cry, what we're going after for the year. And then under that, under each of those 4 initiatives, we have goals. Typically, I think we do no more than 4 goals for each initiative.
Yep.
And each of those goals are owned by a department leader. And so the CEO is owning the initiatives, and we as the leadership team are owning those goals under. So we have to find goals that support that initiative. And so when we actually, as a leadership team here at Full Focus, went through our strategic process just about a month ago, and we determined what those 4 initiatives were. And then we brainstormed all kinds of different things we could do to accomplish that initiative and to go after that. And it was really fun. It was a really exciting process. And so then we take the goals that we as leaders own, and obviously they go to different initiatives, and we bring that back to our team. And then those are our, initiatives our goals for the year for our team.
Yeah, and then they can help with the strategic planning of like, okay, how are we going to go achieve these goals?
Essentially, what are the projects that are needed to go accomplish those goals?
Yeah. So it has both a top-down and a bottom-up philosophy when it comes to goal setting.
Like that's super, super high level, and I would just encourage you, if you're trying to figure this out, go through strategic design. It is a great process, and you can have your whole leadership team go through it.
Yep.
Is there a URL for that?
The URL is fullfocus.co/strategic workshop.
All right, Heather, look, it was the right place. So that's exciting.
Thanks, Heather.
Amy writes, because it's a good question. Sometimes the goal needed can't be measured. Example, the quality of a relationship. I can, quote, do X things as a spiritual goal, but if I'm not paying attention to those things because I'm internally fretting about something else, that doesn't give me the kind of relationship with God that I want, similar with other friendships too. How can we write good goals when what we want doesn't necessarily fit the smarter framework?
Okay. I have to answer this one because I feel this so much. This has been a big like challenge for me as a single person. Okay. And like, this is a little bit vulnerable to talk about, but all of my single people get this. Like I don't want to be single forever. Right. Like I want to go find a spouse and eventually have a family and the whole thing. But I can't really like set a goal of like get married by this date. I mean, I could, I just don't have a lot of
I feel like
control
I've
over
seen that movie though, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Let's make a movie out of this.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But it's like, that's not really in the smarter framework. And so I can't control that. But what I can control is my behavior that will ultimately help me get to that place. And again, like this isn't a perfect science or something. But I can, and I've done this in the past where I've set like a dating goal around dating of, this was like 2 years ago. I did a whole dating goal for the summer of going on X amount of dates. And that could be a movie. Actually, that could absolutely be a movie
or a podcast.
And it didn't end up, I mean, transparently, I'm still single. Like it didn't end up in a relationship like I had hoped, but it helped me get farther down the road. And again, like setting goals isn't necessarily about the goal. It's about who you become in the process. And during that experience, I achieved the goal that I had set in terms of I went on however many dates was supposed to go on. I didn't get to the outcome that I was wanting through that process, which was to end up in a relationship. What I did do though was learn a heck of a lot about myself, what I wanted, what I didn't want, areas that I needed to grow in or develop more. And so just like if it's a spiritual goal with your relationship with God, sure, you can't completely figure out the outcome or control the outcome that you want, but you can control some of those circumstances that will help affect that outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah. I would say for the spiritual goals and relationship goals, right? Sometimes people are like, well, I want to get closer with my spouse or I want to get closer with God, right? You got to ask the question, what does that look like? You know, a year from now, 2 years from now, what are you envisioning or what are you feeling when you say that? Right? Like, for like relationship with God, are you trying to say like, oh man, I sense him more or I interact with him or I'm reading the Bible more, whatever it is. Or with your spouse, you're like, oh, you know what? We're laughing together more. Like what are you envisioning a year out is really important. So then when you can envision that, then you can start building the habit goals for that. So what Marissa was talking about a lot was the habit goals. Like what are the behaviors that you can start adding now so that you can start developing those opportunities to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that helps.
We're down to our last two. I'm not going to refresh the page because I'm afraid there'll be another question.
Well, we'll definitely do more of this. Obviously, this is
so sorry, whoever's
exciting.
there. Yeah. We got two more. Sandra asks, and this is a great question specifically for me. How do you frame a goal as, quote, exciting when it's more of a need to do? Something like getting to bed on time each day.
Yeah.
Oh, which is a struggle.
Totally.
Waking up at a certain time is easy. I think you set an alarm. Somebody told me this like 15 years ago. They're like, when I started teaching, they said, you'll get used to getting up at 5 or whatever. That's whatever. But you will struggle to go to bed when you need to go to bed.
That's true.
I start with why. Why are you doing this goal? Like, or the need?
Yep.
Like, and I try to find something that's really exciting that I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this because of I want it, right? So going to bed at night, right? I always have to remind myself because I'm a natural night owl. I could go to bed at 1 if I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you know what? No, I need to go to bed. Why? Because like 1, I have kids, so they're going to wake me up. 2, I like to be rested. And 3, I like to not be angry.
Right. That's a good reason.
Specifically at my kids for waking me up at 6 a.m, right? But and some of those can be a little bit negative, but then I shift my mindset and be like, okay, what are the positive reasons? Like, what are the positive whys of going to bed at night? And I'm like, oh, you know what? I truly am rested. Like I have energy so that I could fully be present with my kids.
Right.
I want to play with my kids. I want to see them laugh. I don't want to see them see dad angry.
Right.
Right. Like that motivates me. And I'm like, okay, the reason I'm going to go to bed early is because I want to be able to play with my kids and laugh.
Yeah.
I can do that.
I think asking the question of like, what's at stake if you don't do this versus what do you gain if you do it is a great question to ask and can reveal like the goal itself. If it's not exciting to you, it's likely that the outcome that goal provides is exciting for some reason or another.
Yep.
Maybe going to bed every night affords you the ability to wake up in the morning and be able to do something that you wanted to do, but you might be too tired otherwise to do if you didn't go to bed on time. And so just asking yourself what is exciting about the outcome can make the actual goal exciting.
Yep.
How would you write that goal?
I would still keep it the way that she had kind of phrased it, of going to bed at that same time. But then in your planner, you've got a whole section for your motivations. And this is where you can write those reasons why. And this is why referring back to your goals daily, weekly is really important. And specifically when you're doing your weekly preview in your planner, you go back to those goal detail pages and review the reasons why, those motivations that are getting you excited about that goal in the first place.
We're down to our last one.
Okay.
And I almost feel like this was a plant from Rebecca, that somehow Rebecca knew that this was
A thing.
full focus. Like, let's talk about this. Rebecca writes, so it's almost the new year. Can you talk about the difference between a goal and a New Year's resolution? Are they different?
Oh,
Do you even agree with New Year's resolutions?
yeah, this is good. Well, I feel like a New Year's resolution is an intention. Okay. It's something that you hope or wish for. It's something that you kind of want to, like, you want to do, but there's not really anything beyond that intention of it. A goal is really where you're stating, again, in our framework, we have our Smarter framework. We have an episode coming out here in December that's going to walk you through exactly how to set goals, especially for those of you who may be newer to our system or have never set goals before. And in that, we talk about our Smarter framework. So when we're talking about smarter goals, we're talking about them being really specific. And I think this is the difference. You're really drilling down into the specifics. You're making sure it's measurable. You're making sure that it has a date or some kind of frequency on it, so it's time bound. So there's a lot more that goes into a goal than just a New Year's resolution, which is usually like, oh, I want to be healthy. It's like that versus I want to, accomplish exercising 5 times a week, 30 minutes a day, starting January 1 for 10 weeks straight. Like, that's a goal. That's a habit goal. And that's a goal versus just be healthy or get more sleep or, I don't know, quit smoking. I feel like that's a big one for New Year's resolutions.
Yeah. I see resolutions like semantics sometimes. Like it just helps people. They're like, oh, it's a goal, but the problem is that they're just making bad goals.
Yeah.
Right. They're not making them smarter. Or the other way to think about it is that it's just like the initiative. It's the big lofty outcome that you want, but you still need to drill down and actually create a plan. And that's where our Smarter framework kicks in.
Totally.
Referencing an article that we referenced in another episode, actually also from Full Focus, called 5 Reasons Why You Should Commit Writing Your Goals. 5 Reasons You Should Write. Guys, I can read. 5 Reasons Why You Should Commit Your Goals to Writing. I have to look at the pictures to understand. So 25% of people abandon their New Year's resolutions after 1 week and 60% abandon within 6 months. And the average person makes the same New Year's resolution 10 separate times without success. So there is the resolve. Something about a resolution is something that you resolve. Like I resolve. It feels very like it's like the 1700s or something. It has has no bearing. It's not something that has a way to mark. And so I think this is a real, like, to me, this is such a perfect question for Full Focus people and on this podcast, because I think there is a difference.
Yeah, there's a major difference for sure. And really, I mean, if you want to know true goal setting and have a system that helps you actually achieve your goals, because I think there's a difference also between just like setting a goal and actually achieving the thing. And I think that is really what sets Full Focus apart, is we've helped you create a system that ensures that you achieve that goal. So use your planner. I mean, that's like, if you want to accomplish a goal, use your planner. It's all built in. Well, I feel like this was a blast. I don't know about you, but this was really fun.
I loved it. Next time we got to do it just Facebook Live style.
I know. We should really like make it happen live. That'd be super fun. But if you didn't get your question answered and you somehow submitted, we tried to answer all of them that we saw, but I'm sure there's going to be more coming in between now and when this episode airs. And if for some reason you didn't get it, make sure to ping us. We'd love to, try to respond inside the community or save it for another episode. If you have a new question that you haven't asked yet, we want to encourage you, go to the Full Focus Planner community, ask those questions, tag me, tag Ken. We'd love to chime in and hopefully give you some encouragement on your journey to achieving your goals.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on Focus on This.
This is the most productive podcast on the internet. So please share it with your friends and be sure to join the Full Focus Planner community on Facebook so you can benefit from the creativity and encouragement of people chasing big goals just like you.
So we'll be here next week with a very special guest on Monday, and you'll have to tune in to find out who it is. So join us on Monday.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that sounds like a horror mystery theme.
All right, we'll see you on Monday. And until then, stay focused.